My name is Lydia Boone, and I am 76 years old. The day my daughter said, "We're going tomorrow, Mom," I sold your beach house. I was standing barefoot on the sand, watching the waves touch the shore like they had done my whole life. That house was behind me. The ocean was in front of me. And my heart dropped somewhere between the two. Before I go any further, if stories about family betrayal, quiet strength, and unexpected comebacks mean something to you, please subscribe, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. And tell me in the comments what country you're watching from. I want to know who is sitting with me right now. Because what my daughter didn't know when she said those words was that something was already in motion. The beach house wasn't fancy. It wasn't big. But it was mine. It was the first thing I ever owned without asking anyone's permission. My late husband and I bought it 40 years ago when our hair was black and our dreams were loud. We raised our children there every summer. We healed there. We buried grief there. And when he passed, that house became my quiet place. My breathing space. My proof that I still had something of my own. That morning, I had woken up early. I always did when I came to the beach. I made coffee and sat on the porch wrapped in a thin sweater, listening to the gulls argue over scraps. I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt. I remember thinking, God, thank you for letting me have this. Then my phone rang. It was my daughter, Marissa. She didn't say hello. She never did anymore. "Mom," she said, her voice rushed, "we're going tomorrow." I blinked. "Going where?" I asked. "To the beach house," she replied like it was obvious. I smiled softly. "Oh," I said, "that's nice, I'll clean the guest room." She laughed. "No, Mom, we're going to pick up the keys." I frowned. "What keys?" I asked. There was a pause. Then she said it. "I sold your beach house." For a moment, I didn't understand the words. They floated in the air like a language I didn't know. "You sold what?" I asked. "The house," she repeated. "It's done, papers are signed." I felt the wind hit my face. Cold. Sharp. "You had no right," I said quietly. She sighed like I was the problem. "Mom, please don't start," she said. "We needed the money." That sentence burned. We needed the money. Not she. Not her husband. Not their plans. "Wait. I didn't agree to this," I said. "You didn't have to," she replied quickly. "My name is on some of the paperwork." I gripped the railing. "That house is in my name," I said. She laughed again. "Not kind." "Mom, you don't understand how these things work," she said. I looked out at the ocean. The same ocean that had watched me grow old. "You sold something that wasn't yours," I said. Her voice hardened. "You weren't using it like before," she snapped. "And honestly, you're getting older. It's too much responsibility for you." There it was. The truth. Not money. Control. "You should be grateful," she continued. "We handled everything. You won't have to worry anymore." I closed my eyes. "You didn't ask me," I said. "You would have said no," she replied. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I asked one question. "How much?" She told me. A number that felt small for something so big. "You sold my memories," I said. "Mom, stop being emotional," she snapped. That word again. Emotional. That's what they call you when you don't hand over your life quietly. "We're coming tomorrow," she said. "So please be packed." Packed. Like I was a guest in my own home. The call ended. Just like that. I stood there a long time after. The waves kept moving. The world didn't stop. But something inside me did. You see, my daughter thought I was helpless. She thought age made me slow. She thought love made me weak. She thought silence meant ignorance. What she didn't know was that months ago, something had already begun. Something quiet, something careful, something legal. I walked back inside the house. I opened a drawer in the old wooden desk my husband built with his hands. Inside was a folder. Brown. Worn. Important. I sat down slowly. My knees hurt. My hands shook. But my mind was clear. Because the beach house wasn't the only thing tied to my name. And the truth about that sale wasn't what my daughter thought it was. Tomorrow was coming. Yes. But so was the truth. And when it arrived, she would learn something she never expected. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. After the call ended, I did not sit down. I stood right there in the living room, the phone still warm in my hand, listening to the ocean through the open window. The waves kept coming in, just like they always had, just like they would long after I was gone. But inside me, something shifted. Not loudly. Not suddenly. Something quiet moved into place, like a door finally closing. I walked slowly through the beach house. The wooden floors creaked the same way they always had. The walls still smelled faintly of salt and old sunlight. Every picture on those walls held a piece of my life. My children running barefoot across the sand. My husband laughing with his shirt half unbuttoned. Marissa at 10 years old, pouting because I made her come inside before sunset. I touched each frame gently. Not in grief. In recognition. Marissa believed I was sentimental. She thought that made me weak. She never understood the difference between loving memories and clinging to them. I loved them, but I was not blind. I made myself sit at the kitchen table. The same table where I once helped my children with homework. The same table where I signed school permission slips. The same table where my husband and I once spread out bills and whispered prayers over coffee. I pulled the folder from my bag. The brown one. The one Marissa never knew about. Inside were copies. Deeds. Emails. Letters. Dates written carefully in my own handwriting. I had started organizing everything almost a year ago. Not because I planned for betrayal, but because I felt it coming. You see, when people begin to see you as old, they stop asking. They stop explaining. They start deciding. And I had noticed the change in Marissa long before the phone call. It started small. She stopped asking before making plans. She spoke at me instead of with me. She said things like, "You don't need to worry about that anymore, Mom." At first, I thought she was trying to help. Then I realized something darker. She was trying to manage me. She began offering to handle paperwork, to organize finances, to simplify things. All words that sounded kind. All words that slowly removed me from my own life. I remembered the first time she asked about the beach house. It was last summer. She stood right where I was standing now, hands on her hips, eyes scanning the room. "You know," she said, "this place is probably worth a lot now." I smiled. "It's not for sale," I replied. She laughed. "I'm just saying," she said, "at your age, it's a lot to maintain." That sentence stayed with me. At your age. That was the moment I started paying closer attention. I didn't confront her. I didn't accuse her. I simply became careful. I spoke to a lawyer quietly. Not to make waves. Just to understand. To ask questions. To protect myself. The lawyer listened patiently as I explained my situation. My age. My assets. My family. Then he said something that stayed with me. "Love doesn't stop people from making bad decisions," he said. "But preparation can stop bad outcomes." That was when things went into motion. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, just like I had always lived. I made copies. I updated documents. I made sure certain permissions were removed. I made sure nothing could be sold without my direct approval. I didn't tell Marissa. I didn't want to start a war. I just wanted to be safe. And now, standing there with the ocean behind me and my daughter's words echoing in my ears, I realized something. She thought she had already won. I poured myself a glass of water and sat down again. My hands shook a little this time. Not from fear. From disappointment. I thought about Marissa as a child. How she used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. How she once cried for hours when I left her at camp. How she used to say, "Mommy, don't ever leave me." And now she had sold my home without blinking. I didn't call her back. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. That would come later. Instead, I opened my laptop. Slowly. Carefully. And I began checking something she didn't know I had access to. The email address tied to the beach house paperwork. The one my husband set up years ago and never told anyone else about. I logged in. Unread messages filled the screen. My heart began to pound. There it was. An email chain. Between Marissa, her husband, and a real estate agent. The date stopped me cold. They went back months. Not days. Not weeks. Months. I read every word. Each one heavier than the last. She hadn't just sold the house suddenly. She had planned it. Talked about it. Celebrated it. One message made my chest tighten. She won't notice until it's done. Another followed. She trusts me. I closed my eyes. Trust. That word felt sharp now. I realized then that the phone call was not a mistake. It was an announcement. She believed it was already over. I stood up and walked back to the porch. The sun was lower now. The tide had shifted. Everything moved forward. Even when you didn't want it to. I whispered out loud. "You underestimated me." The words felt strange in my mouth. But right. I packed slowly that evening. Not because I was leaving forever, but because I wanted to watch her face when she arrived tomorrow. I wanted to see what confidence looked like before it cracked. I folded clothes. Placed photos carefully into boxes. I did not rush. I did not panic. I prepared. As night fell, I sat on the porch one last time. The same place my husband proposed to me. The same place we said goodbye before cancer took him. The same place my daughter learned to swim. I placed my hand on the railing. "I did not raise you to do this," I said quietly. But I also knew something else. I raised myself enough to survive it. When I went to bed, sleep did not come easily. My mind replayed moments. Missed signs. Ignored instincts. But beneath all of that was something solid. A calm resolve. Because while Marissa believed tomorrow would be simple, she had no idea what waited for her. The sale she thought was final was not. The power she thought she had was temporary. And the woman she thought was helpless was already 3 steps ahead. As I closed my eyes, I whispered one final thought. Tomorrow will be interesting. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I woke up before the sun again. I didn't need an alarm. My body already knew this was not an ordinary day. The ocean outside was calm, almost polite, like it was holding its breath with me. I sat up in bed and listened. No cars yet. No voices. Just waves and birds. It felt like the world was giving me one last quiet moment before everything changed. I made myself coffee and stood by the window. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I expected fear. I expected sadness. Instead, I felt ready. Not angry ready. Prepared ready. There is a difference. I thought about Marissa as she was driving down here. I imagined her confidence, her tight smile, the way she would walk into the house like it already belonged to her. She would expect me to be confused, upset, grateful she handled things. She would expect me to fold. I decided then that I would let her believe it. Just for a while. Around 10 in the morning, I heard tires crunching on the gravel. Then another car. 2 cars. That told me everything I needed to know. She hadn't come alone. I didn't rush to the door. I finished my coffee. I rinsed my cup. I wiped the counter slowly. I did not give her the satisfaction of urgency. The knock came sharp and confident. Not a request. A claim. I walked to the door and opened it. There she was. Marissa. Sunglasses on. Hair perfect. Smile tight. Behind her stood her husband, Daniel, and a man in a pressed shirt holding a folder. The real estate agent. "Mom," Marissa said brightly. "We're here." I smiled softly. "I see that," I replied. She leaned in to hug me. Her arms were stiff. Her embrace quick. She smelled like expensive perfume and certainty. Daniel nodded politely. "Hi, Lydia," he said. The agent smiled nervously. "Good morning, ma'am." I stepped aside. "Come in," I said. Marissa walked straight past me like she knew the house better than I did. She glanced around. "Looks smaller than I remember," she said. I nodded. "Funny how perspective changes," I replied. She turned to the agent. "This is my mother," she said casually. "We're just here to collect the remaining keys." I raised an eyebrow. "Remaining?" I asked. She waved her hand. "You know what I mean," she said. "The buyers are eager." The agent cleared his throat. "Yes," he said. "We just need a few final confirmations." He opened his folder. Marissa turned to me, smile still in place. "Mom, just hand over the keys and we'll be done quickly," she said. There it was. The assumption. I walked to the kitchen table and sat down. I did not bring the keys. Marissa frowned. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Sitting," I replied. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. The agent looked between us. "Mrs. Boone," he said gently. "We have paperwork indicating the sale was approved." I nodded. "Yes," I said. "I'm aware of what you were told." Marissa's smile tightened. "Mom, don't make this awkward," she said. I looked up at her. "It already is," I replied. She crossed her arms. "What's your problem?" she snapped. I leaned back in my chair. "My problem," I said slowly, "is that you sold something you do not legally control." Her laugh came quick and sharp. "Oh, here we go," she said. "You're confused." The agent froze. "I'm not confused," I replied calmly. "I'm informed." I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table. Brown. Worn. Heavy. The same one from the night before. Marissa's eyes flicked to it. "What's that?" she asked. "Documentation," I replied. Daniel leaned closer. The agent swallowed. "You told him everything was finalized," I said to Marissa. "It is," she snapped. I opened the folder. Slowly. I slid one document across the table toward the agent. "Please read the highlighted section," I said. The agent adjusted his glasses. He read. Then read again. His face changed. Color drained. "Is there a problem?" Marissa demanded. The agent looked up. "Yes," he said carefully. "There is." Marissa scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous." The agent held up the paper. "This property cannot be sold without Mrs. Boone's direct written approval," he said. And that approval was revoked months ago. The room went very still. Daniel's mouth fell open. Marissa's face flushed. "That's impossible," she said. I tilted my head. "No," I replied. "It's accurate." "You did this behind my back," she hissed. I met her eyes. "I protected myself," I said. "Behind your ambition." Daniel spoke up. "Marissa, what is he talking about?" he asked. She ignored him. "You planned this," she said to me. "Yes," I replied. Her voice rose. "You don't trust me." I didn't answer right away. Then I said the truth. "No," I replied. She slammed her hand on the table. "You're ruining everything." The agent stepped back. "I'm going to need to make some calls," he said. He gathered his folder quickly. "I'm very sorry," he added and left. The door closed. Hard. Daniel stared at Marissa. "You said this was clean," he said. She snapped at him. "Stay out of it." I stood slowly. "You involved him," I said calmly. "Just not honestly." Marissa turned back to me, eyes blazing. "You embarrassed me," she said. I nodded. "Yes," I replied. "Now you know how that feels." She paced. "You think you've won?" she asked. I shook my head. "This isn't a game," I said. "It's my life." She laughed bitterly. "You're old," she said. "You don't need a beach house." That sentence landed hard. But I didn't flinch. "I need respect," I replied. Daniel rubbed his temples. "Marissa," he said. "We already spent part of that money." Silence. I looked at him, then back at her. "You spent money from a sale that didn't exist?" I asked. Her face went pale. "You're lying," I said softly. She didn't answer. My heart sank. Not because of money. Because of the depth of her choices. I walked to the window. The ocean shimmered. Unbothered. "You assumed I wouldn't fight back," I said. "You assumed age made me powerless." I turned to face her. "You assumed wrong." Her voice dropped. "Fix this," she said. "Please." I shook my head slowly. "No," I replied. "You fix what you broke." Daniel looked at me. "What happens now?" he asked. I met his eyes. "That," I said, "depends on what she does next." Marissa stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. "You're not my mother anymore," she whispered. The words hurt, but they did not break me. "I am exactly who I've always been," I replied. "You just stopped seeing me." She grabbed her bag and stormed out. Daniel followed, hesitating at the door. "I didn't know," he said quietly. I nodded. "Now you do," I replied. When the door closed, the house felt different. Lighter, but unfinished. I sat back down at the table. My legs trembled slightly now. The adrenaline fatting. The reality settling in. I knew this wasn't over. Marissa had lost control. And people who lose control do dangerous things. I looked out at the ocean again. Tomorrow, she would not come asking. She would come demanding. And she would bring something with her. Something she believed would force my hand. And when that happened, I would have to decide how far I was willing to go. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The house did not feel quiet after Marissa left. It felt alert, like it knew something else was coming. I stood in the middle of the living room for a long time after the door closed, listening to the sound of the ocean mix with the echo of her footsteps fading down the porch steps. My hands were shaking now. Not badly. Just enough to remind me I was human. I sat down slowly, and pressed my palms flat on the table. I took 3 deep breaths. In, out, in, out, in, out. That was something my husband taught me years ago when life felt too big. Breathe first, he used to say. Then decide. I knew Marissa would not accept what happened quietly. She had never accepted no well. Not as a child. Not as a teenager. Not as an adult. She believed persistence was power. She believed pressure fixed everything. I cleaned the kitchen slowly. Not because it was dirty. Because I needed to move. My body needed to catch up to my mind. As I wiped the counter, I remembered something she said years ago when she was 16. You always forgive, she told me once. That's why people get away with stuff. I had laughed back then. I wasn't laughing now. By late afternoon, my phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Then again. I didn't pick it up. I already knew who it was. The messages came fast. You blindsided me. We need to talk now. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. This isn't over. I placed the phone face down. I refused to let her pace my heart. Just before sunset, another car pulled up. Not Marissa's. This one was older. Slower. Familiar. My sister Gloria stepped out. She adjusted her purse on her shoulder and walked up the steps like she owned the place. She didn't knock. She never did. I knew I'd find you here, she said, walking in. I didn't stand up. I stayed seated. Hello, Gloria, I replied. She looked around. So this is the famous house, she said. Shame it's causing all this trouble. I smiled faintly. It's not the house, I said. It's the entitlement. She scoffed. Don't start, she said. You humiliated your daughter. I tilted my head. By refusing to be stolen from, I asked. She waved her hand. You know what I mean, she snapped. She already sold it. I met her eyes. No, I replied. She tried. Gloria crossed her arms. You're being stubborn, she said. You're old, Lydia. What do you need a beach house for? I breathed in slowly. To sit in peace, I said. To remember my husband. To exist without permission. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. That word again. You always were soft, she said. That's why Marissa thought she could handle things. I leaned forward. And that's why she was wrong, I replied. Gloria's voice dropped. You're tearing the family apart, she warned. I looked out toward the ocean. No, I said quietly. I'm exposing where it was already broken. She shook her head. You should just sign whatever's needed and move on, she said. Marissa already spent the money. I turned back to her slowly. She spent money that wasn't hers, I replied. That's not my emergency. Gloria stared at me. You'd really do this to your own child. I met her gaze. I wouldn't, I said. She already did this to me. She stood up sharply. If you don't fix this, Marissa will never forgive you, she said. I nodded. That's her choice, I replied. She grabbed her purse. You'll regret this, she said, heading for the door. I didn't stop her. I didn't chase her. I let the door close behind her. That night, I barely slept. Not because I was afraid. Because my mind was busy connecting dots I had ignored for years. Marissa had always been strong-willed. But somewhere along the way, strength turned into control. And control turned into entitlement. And entitlement turned into theft. Around 2 a.m, my phone buzzed again. This time I answered. Yes, I said. Marissa's voice came through, low and tight. You need to fix this, she said. I sat up in bed. There's nothing to fix, I replied. You ruined our finances, she snapped. We're in trouble. I closed my eyes. You put yourself there, I said. She breathed sharply. You think you're so smart, she said. You think this makes you powerful. I stayed calm. No, I replied. I think it makes me present. Her voice softened suddenly. Mom, please, she said. We could lose everything. That word. Everything. I thought of the house. My husband. My life. My peace. You already tried to take everything, I said quietly. She paused. Then her voice changed. Colder. If you don't cooperate, she said, I'll make sure everyone knows how unstable you are. My stomach tightened. There it was. The threat. I opened my eyes. Are you threatening me? I asked. She laughed nervously. I'm protecting myself, she replied. I sat very still. So am I said. The line went dead. I lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling. I felt sad then. Not for the house. For the distance between a mother and a daughter who no longer spoke the same language. In the morning, I made a decision. Not rushed. Not emotional. Clear. I called my lawyer. I think it's time, I said. He didn't ask what I meant. I'll prepare, he replied. Then I did something Marissa never expected. I called the buyers. Directly. They answered politely. Confused. Concerned. I explained everything calmly. I did not accuse. I did not raise my voice. I told the truth. There was a long silence on the line. Then the woman said softly, We had no idea. I nodded. Most people don't, I replied. They promised to pause everything. To review. To step back. I thanked them. By noon, Marissa knew. Because she showed up again. This time alone. Her face pale. Her confidence gone. You went behind my back, she said. I met her eyes. No, I replied. I stepped in front of you. She sank into the chair. What are you trying to do? She asked. I answered honestly. I'm trying to end this without destroying us, I said. She shook her head slowly. You don't understand, she whispered. They're coming after us. I leaned forward. Who? I asked. She hesitated, then said quietly, People we owe. My heart sank. Not with fear. With understanding. So that was it. The urgency. The pressure. The recklessness. How much? I asked. She told me. A number that made my chest tighten. You sold my house to cover your debts, I said. She didn't answer. I stood slowly. This is bigger than the beach house, I said. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know what else to do, she whispered. I believed her. That didn't excuse her. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said the words that would change everything. There is only one way forward, I said. She looked up, desperate. What? She asked. I took a deep breath. We do this my way, I said. Or not at all. She nodded quickly. Anything, she said. I looked at her carefully. Then you need to tell me everything, I replied. No lies, no half-truths. She opened her mouth to speak. Then froze. A knock came at the door. Hard. Urgent. Not friendly. We both turned. I felt the air shift. Marissa's face drained of color. Mom, she whispered. They found us. I stood up. My heart steady. My mind clear. Then it's time, I said. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The knock at the door did not stop. It came again. Louder. Sharper. Not the knock of a neighbor. Not the knock of family. It was the knock of someone who believed they were owed something. Marissa stood frozen beside me. Her face was white. Her lips trembled. "Mom," she whispered again, "please." I looked at her carefully. Not with anger. With clarity. This was no longer about the house alone. This was about survival. I stepped past her and walked to the door. My back was straight. My hands steady. When I opened it, 2 men stood on the porch. They were not young. They were not old. They wore clean clothes and empty smiles. "Mrs. Boone?" one of them asked. "Yes," I replied. He nodded once. "We need to talk to your daughter." Marissa's breath hitched behind me. I didn't move aside. "You can talk to me," I said. The man smiled wider. "That won't be necessary," he replied. I smiled back. "It is in this house," I said. The second man shifted. "We're just here to collect," he said calmly. I nodded slowly. "Then you're in the wrong place," I replied. The first man's smile faded. "That depends," he said. Marissa stepped forward then. "I told you," she said quickly. "I told you it was coming." I turned to her. "Go sit down," I said quietly. She hesitated, then obeyed. I stepped fully onto the porch and closed the door behind me. Not to lock them out. To keep her safe. "You won't get anything here," I said calmly. The first man leaned closer. "Your daughter owes us," he said. "She owes you," I replied. He tilted his head. "That's not how this works." I met his eyes. "It is in my house," I said. They stared at me for a long moment. Then the second man chuckled. "She's tough," he said. The first man sighed. "We'll be back," he said. I nodded. "Bring paperwork next time," I replied. They turned and walked away. Slowly. Like this wasn't finished. When I went back inside, Marissa was crying. Not loud. Not dramatic. Quietly. Like someone who had reached the end of pretending. "I didn't mean for this," she said. I sat across from her. "I know," I replied. She wiped her face. "It started small," she said. "A loan, then another, then interest." I listened. I didn't interrupt. "I thought I could fix it," she continued. "I thought selling the house would make it all go away." I closed my eyes. "You used my life to patch your mistakes," I said. She nodded. "Yes," she whispered. I leaned back. "This is what happens when people stop seeing their parents as people," I said. "They start seeing them as resources." She cried harder then. I waited until she calmed. Then I spoke. "You are going to listen to me now," I said. She nodded. "You will not sell anything that is not yours," I continued. "You will not involve strangers in my life again. And you will stop making decisions for me." She nodded again. "What do I do?" she asked. I answered honestly. "You tell the truth," I said. "To everyone." She shook her head. "They'll hate me." I looked at her gently. "They already don't trust you," I replied. "Truth is your only chance." That night she stayed. She slept on the couch like she did when she was young. I stayed awake. Listening. Thinking. Planning. The next morning, I called my lawyer again. This time, I asked harder questions. He answered carefully. And with each answer, I felt something solid form beneath my fear. A path. I also made another call. One Marissa didn't expect. To my bank. Then to my accountant. Then to someone else entirely. Someone Marissa didn't know I still spoke to. By afternoon, Marissa sat across from me again. She looked smaller now. Not weaker. Just aware. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm fixing this," I replied. She frowned. You said I had to tell the truth. Yes, I said. And I will too. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I folded my hands. I have been protecting you for too long, I said. That ends now. She looked afraid. Mom, please, she said. If you tell people. I will tell what I choose, I replied. The phone rang again. A different number. I answered. Yes, I said. The voice on the other end was sharp. You've complicated things, the man said. I smiled faintly. No, I replied. You underestimated me. He paused, then laughed. We'll see, he said. I hung up. Marissa stared at me. What was that? She asked. I looked at her calmly. That, I said, is why we are going to end this cleanly. That evening, I packed another folder. This one thicker. More serious. I placed it next to the first. Marissa watched silently. I didn't know you were like this, she said softly. I smiled. I didn't know I had to be, I replied. Outside, the ocean roared louder than usual. Like it approved. Or warned. Tomorrow would not be quiet. Tomorrow would involve people. Names. Decisions. Consequences. And by the end of it, Marissa would learn something she never believed before. That age does not make you powerless. It makes you precise. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The next morning did not feel like morning. It felt like a stage light turning on. Too bright. Too revealing. Too late to pretend nothing was happening. I woke up before Marissa. I always did when trouble was near. I stood by the window and watched the beach wake up. Joggers passed. A fisherman dragged his cooler across the sand. The ocean looked calm again, like it always did after a storm. I envied it. When Marissa finally came into the kitchen, her eyes were swollen. She sat down slowly, like her body had aged 10 years overnight. I didn't sleep, she said. I know, I replied. She stared at the table. They'll come back, she whispered. Yes, I said. Her head snapped up. You're not scared. I shook my head. I'm prepared, I replied. She rubbed her arms. What if they hurt you? She asked. I looked at her carefully. They won't, I said. Because they don't want attention. She frowned. How do you know that? I smiled faintly. Because people who live in shadows hate light, I replied. After breakfast, I made calls. Not emotional ones. Not angry ones. Calm ones. Measured ones. I called my lawyer again. I want everything documented, I said. He didn't hesitate. We already started, he replied. I nodded. Then I called the local police station. Not to report. To ask questions. About restraining orders. About harassment. About process. Marissa listened from the couch, her hands clenched in her lap. You're really doing this, she said. Yes, I replied. I'm ending it. By noon, the phone started ringing again. Family. Friends. Word had spread. Not my version. Hers. Marissa says you're refusing to help, one cousin said. I'm refusing to be robbed, I replied. She's desperate, another said. So was I when she sold my house, I replied. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I stated facts. Slowly. Calmly. And with each call, something changed. Voices softened. Questions appeared. Doubt crept in. By mid-afternoon, someone else arrived. Daniel. Marissa's husband. He stood in the doorway like he didn't know which side of it he belonged on. I didn't know, he said immediately. I nodded. You do now, I I replied. He sat down across from Marissa. You told me the house was already sold, he said. She stared at the floor. I thought it would be, she whispered. He ran a hand through his hair. You spent money that wasn't ours, he said. Silence filled the room. Daniel looked at me. I'm sorry, he said. I should have asked more questions. I believed him. That didn't fix everything. I can't fix this for you, I said calmly. But I won't let you bury me to save yourselves. Marissa looked up then. Tears ran down her face. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I sighed. Meaning doesn't erase impact, I replied. The phone rang again. This time, I recognized the number. The buyers. I put it on speaker. We've decided to withdraw, the woman said. This situation isn't what we were told. Marissa gasped. Daniel closed his eyes. I nodded. That's wise, I said. The call ended. Marissa stared at me like I had just pulled the ground out from under her. They'll come after us harder now, she whispered. I stood up slowly. Then we meet them standing, I replied. Later that evening, I heard the familiar crunch of tires again. This time, only one car. One man. He didn't knock. He leaned against the porch rail like he belonged there. I stepped outside before he could knock. Mrs. Boone, he said. You're making this difficult. I smiled politely. No, I replied. You are. You need to tell your daughter to pay, he said. She will pay what she owes, I replied. But not with my life. He laughed softly. You think paperwork will save you? I looked him straight in the eyes. No, I said. I think witnesses will. His smile faded. You're old, he said. No one will listen. I nodded. They always do, I replied. Once the truth starts speaking. He stared at me for a long moment. Then stepped back. This isn't finished, he said. I nodded. No, I replied. But it's ending. When he left, Marissa was shaking. You didn't even flinch, she said. I put a blanket around her shoulders. I flinched years ago, I replied. Now I act. That night, I sat alone after everyone slept. I looked at the folders again. I added notes. Dates. Times. Names. Tomorrow, this would go public. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Officially. Marissa did not know yet. But she would soon. That the next step involved something she feared more than debt. More than shame. More than losing control. Accountability. And once accountability arrived, nothing would ever go back to the way it was. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. By morning, the secret was no longer just inside the house. It had slipped out. Quietly. Like smoke under a door. I knew it the moment my phone would not stop buzzing. Not calls. Messages. Short ones. Careful ones. The kind people send when they don't know what side they're on yet. Is everything okay? I heard something strange. Call me when you can. I did not answer right away. I made tea first. I sat down. I breathed. Marissa paced the living room like a trapped bird. They're talking, she said. Yes, I replied. You told them, she accused. No, I said calmly. The truth walks on its own once the door is open. She stopped packing. You're ruining my life, she said. I looked at her. You tried to use mine as collateral, I replied. She turned away. By late morning, Daniel came back. This time, he looked angry. Not at me. At her. You didn't tell me everything, he said. Marissa said nothing. You didn't tell me about the threats, he continued. You didn't tell me about the money. She sat down hard on the couch. I was scared, she whispered. Daniel rubbed his face. We all are now, he said. The phone rang again. This time, it was someone unexpected. My pastor. I heard your name mentioned, he said gently. Do you want to talk? I smiled sadly. Yes, I said. But not to explain, to prepare. Word spread faster after that. Not gossip. Concern. Questions. People began asking Marissa things she could not answer. By afternoon, someone knocked again. Not collectors. Not family. A woman. Clipboard in hand. Calm eyes. Mrs. Boone, she asked. Yes, I replied. I'm with Adult Protective Services, she said. Marissa gasped behind me. The woman looked at me kindly. We received a report, she said. I nodded. So did I replied quietly. Marissa stood up fast. This is ridiculous, she said. My mother is fine. The woman raised a hand gently. This is routine, she said. We just need to ask a few questions. They sat at the table. She asked about the house. The money. The pressure. The threats. I answered honestly. Marissa did not. Not fully. The woman wrote everything down. Then she looked up at Marissa. You sold property that does not belong to you, she said. Marissa's face drained. We need to look into that, the woman continued. After she left, the house felt different. Heavier. Final. Daniel turned to Marissa. You did this wrong, he said quietly. She burst into tears. I was trying to fix things, she cried. You broke them, he replied. He looked at me then. I'm sorry, he said again. I nodded. I know, I replied. That night, Marissa didn't eat. She sat alone in the dark. For the first time, no one was protecting her from consequences. Later, she came to my room. Mom, she said softly. Yes, I replied. Her voice shook. What if I lose everything? I looked at her carefully. You already almost lost me, I said. She swallowed. Will you help me? She asked. I paused. Yes, I said slowly. But not the way you want. She nodded. What way? She asked. The honest way, I replied. She left quietly. I sat on the edge of the bed. Tired, but steady. Tomorrow, lawyers would talk. Agencies would follow up. Questions would multiply. And Marissa would finally understand something she had forgotten. That love is not blind protection. It is boundaries. But the biggest shock was still coming. Because the next step would not come from me. It would come from someone Marissa never expected to hear from again. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The call came just after sunrise. I was already awake. Sleep had been visiting me in short pieces these days. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Enough to rest my body, but not enough to quiet my thoughts. The phone rang once, then stopped, then rang again. I picked it up. Hello, I said. There was a long pause. Then a voice I had not heard in over 20 years. Lydia, the voice said softly. My breath caught. Yes, I replied slowly. It's Evan, he said. I sat down on the edge of the bed. For a moment, the room felt far away. Evan. The name carried weight. History. Pain. Truth. I didn't think you answer, he said. I didn't think you call, I replied. Another pause. I heard about the house, he said. Of course he did. Everyone had. What do you want, Evan? I asked. I want to fix something I helped break, he replied. My hands trembled slightly. You're late, I said. Yes, he agreed. But not too late. When I hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. Evan was Marissa's biological father. Not the man who raised her. Not the man she called Dad. But the man whose name had been erased quietly when she was young. I never planned to hide it forever. But life got complicated. People got comfortable. And silence settled in like dust. Marissa came into the kitchen later that morning. She looked exhausted. Like someone who had been running from herself all night. You look pale, she said. So do you, I replied. She poured coffee. Her hands shook. Mom, she said carefully. People are asking questions. I nodded. They should, I replied. She hesitated. Did someone call you this morning? She asked. I looked at her. Yes, I said. Her eyes widened. Who? I held her gaze. Your father, I replied. The mug slipped from her hands. Coffee spilled across the floor. What? She whispered. I stood slowly. You heard me, I said. Her face twisted. That's not funny, she said. I'm not joking, I replied. She backed away. He left, she said. He doesn't matter. He does now, I replied. She shook her head hard. No, she said. You're lying. I sighed. He knows about the house, I said. He knows about the debt. She stared at me in horror. You told him, she asked. No, I replied. The truth has been busy lately. She collapsed into a chair. You're doing this to punish me, she said. No, I said gently. I'm letting the truth stand up for itself. She began to cry. Deep. Ugly. Honest. I didn't want this, she sobbed. I knelt beside her. I didn't want any of this either, I said. Later that day, Evan arrived. He stood awkwardly in the doorway. Older. Grayer. Humbled. Marissa froze when she saw him. You, she said. Yes, he replied quietly. They stared at each other. Years of silence between them. Years of assumptions. Years of lies not fully told. I know you hate me, he said. She laughed bitterly. You don't get to show up now, she snapped. I know, he said. But I will take responsibility. Her head snapped up. For what? She asked. For everything, he replied. He looked at me then. I owe you an apology, he said. I nodded. We'll talk later, I replied. Marissa stood up suddenly. This is too much, she said. You planned this. I shook my head. No, I said. But I stopped stopping it. Evan cleared his throat. I know about the loans, he said. And the threats. Marissa stared at him. How? She asked. He sighed. I was one of them once, he said. The room went still. What do you mean? She whispered. He looked at me. I nodded once. I used to run with people who solved problems the wrong way, Evan said. I recognized the names. Marissa's face drained of color. You're lying, she whispered. I'm not, he replied. Silence pressed down on us. Heavy. Unforgiving. I can help, Evan said finally. But only if everything comes out. Marissa shook her head wildly. No, she said. No more. I stood up. There is no more, I said. There is only now. Marissa looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. You're choosing him over me, she accused. I stepped closer. No, I said. I'm choosing truth over fear. Evan looked at her carefully. If you keep lying, he said, they won't just come back. Her eyes filled with terror. What will they do? She asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said quietly, "They'll take something else." The room felt cold, even with the sun pouring in. That night, Marissa locked herself in the bathroom, crying, shaking, breaking. I sat at the table with Evan. We spoke softly, carefully, about the past, about mistakes, about how silence can rot people from the inside. When Marissa finally came out, her eyes were red. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "I'll tell everything," she said. I looked at her closely. "When?" I asked. She swallowed. "Tomorrow," she replied. But something in her eyes told me the truth. Tomorrow was too late. And whatever she was planning had already begun. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not sleep that night. Not because I was afraid. Because something felt unfinished. Like a door left open in a storm. Marissa's room stayed quiet. Too quiet. No crying. No packing. No sounds of a woman breaking. Just silence. And silence can lie. Evan left just before midnight. "I'll be close," he said. I nodded. "Be careful," I replied. He paused. "You too," he said. Then he was gone. I sat in the living room with one lamp on. The ocean outside was restless again. Waves crashing harder than before. I had learned to trust that sound. It always meant change. Around 3 a.m., I heard it. The soft click of the back door. Not loud. Not rushed. Careful. I stood slowly. My joints protested, but my mind was sharp. I did not call out. I followed the sound. Marissa was in the kitchen. Dressed. Bag in her hand. Keys on the counter. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "You scared me," she whispered. "You were leaving," I replied. She looked away. "I needed air," she said. "At 3 a.m., I asked gently. She swallowed. "I can't stay here," she said. I stepped closer. "Where are you going?" I asked. She hesitated. "Somewhere safe," she replied. I nodded. "From who?" I asked. She didn't answer. I looked at the bag. "You're running," I said. Her shoulders dropped. "I don't have a choice," she whispered. "You always have a choice," I replied. "You just don't like the ones that cost you." She turned to face me then. Her eyes were tired. Angry. Ashamed. "You don't understand," she snapped. "They won't stop." I took a breath. "Running won't stop them either," I said. She clenched her fists. "You turned everyone against me," she said. "No," I replied. "I stopped lying for you." She shook her head. "I just wanted to fix things," she cried. "And you broke them worse," I replied softly. She grabbed her keys. "I'm going," she said. I did not block her. I asked one question. "Did you tell the truth today?" I asked. She froze. "No," she whispered. I nodded. "That's why you're afraid," I said. She opened the door. Cold air rushed in. Then another sound cut through the night. Car doors. More than one. Marissa froze. I stepped beside her. Headlights flooded the yard. 2 cars. Men stepping out. Not rushing. Not smiling. Her hand shook. "They found me," she whispered. I stood tall. "No," I said calmly. They followed lies. One of the men called out. "Marissa." She stepped back. "I can explain," she said weakly. I moved in front of her. "You will not speak to my daughter without me," I said. He laughed. "Old woman," he said. "You don't matter." I looked him straight in the eye. I matter enough, I replied. Another man stepped forward. You owe, he said. Marissa began to cry. I'll get it, she said. I just need time. He shook his head. Time ran out, he replied. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone. Already recording. You're trespassing, I said calmly. And you're being recorded. They paused. Just long enough. A voice came from behind us. Step away from them. Evan. Walking up the path. Calm. Steady. Not alone. Sirens sounded in the distance. Not close. But close enough. The men cursed under their breath. This isn't over, one said. Evan smiled thinly. No, he replied. But it's changed. They got back into their cars. Drove away. Vast. Marissa collapsed onto the steps. Sobbing. I can't do this, she cried. I knelt beside her. You already are, I said. Evan approached slowly. She has to tell everything now, he said. Marissa looked up at him. What if I lose everything? She asked. I answered before he could. Then you rebuild, I said. Like I did. The sun began to rise. Soft pink over the ocean. A new day. A final one. Later that morning, Marissa sat across from two professionals. Hands folded. Voice shaking. But speaking. Finally. She told them everything. The loans. The lies. The sale. The pressure. The threats. When it was over, she looked at me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I nodded. I know, I replied. But forgiveness does not erase consequences. And help does not mean rescue. As we left the building, Marissa received one last message. She looked at her phone. Then at me. Her face pale. Mom, she said slowly. There's one more thing I never told you. My heart sank. What? I asked. She swallowed hard. The house, she said. I didn't just promise it to them. The ground shifted beneath me. What do you mean? I asked. She met my eyes. I signed something else, she whispered. And in that moment, I knew. The final fight was still ahead of us. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. When Marissa said she signed something else, the world did not spin. It did not shake. It went still. Very still. Like the moment right before a wave breaks. What did you sign? I asked. My voice was calm, but my chest felt tight. Marissa could not look at me. They said it was just a guarantee, she whispered. Something temporary. Evan's jaw tightened. There is no such thing, he said quietly. We sat down right there, on a bench outside the building. Marissa pulled the papers from her bag with shaking hands. I took them. Slowly. Carefully. I read every word. Then I read them again. Then I closed the folder. You didn't sell the house, I said. Marissa looked up, confused. Then what did I do? She asked. I met her eyes. You tried to give it away, I said. But you failed. She stared at me. How? She whispered. I took a deep breath. Because you cannot pledge what you do not legally own, I said. And because months ago, I protected myself. Her mouth fell open. What do you mean? She asked. I leaned back. You thought I was just sitting by the ocean, I said. You thought I was quiet because I was weak. I shook my head. I was quiet because I was preparing. I told her everything then. How after her husband first asked about the house years ago, something felt off. How I updated my documents, separated assets, placed safeguards, put my wishes in writing. With witnesses. With clarity. The house was never exposed, I said. Not to debt, not to promises, not to you. Marissa began to cry. Not loud. Not dramatic. The kind of cry that comes when lies finally collapse. I didn't know, she whispered. I know, I replied. That's why it hurts. Evan nodded. They were bluffing, he said. They thought fear would make you hand it over. Marissa covered her face. I almost destroyed you, she sobbed. I reached for her hand. You tried, I said gently. But love made me cautious, not careless. That afternoon, the final calls were made. Not angry ones. Clear ones. Boundaries were stated. Threats dissolved when truth showed up. People who depended on silence disappeared when they realized it was gone. The beach house remained mine. But something else happened too. Something quieter. More powerful. Marissa moved out. Not in shame. In responsibility. She went to stay somewhere modest. Somewhere honest. Somewhere that matched the work ahead of her. Daniel stayed back. Not to argue. Not to beg. But to think. Some things needed space to survive. Others needed truth to end. Weeks passed. The ocean stayed. The house stayed. I stayed. One morning, Marissa came back. She knocked this time. May I come in? She asked. I smiled. Yes, I said. She sat at the table, where all the lies had finally been told. I'm working again, she said. I'm paying what I owe. I nodded. I'm proud of you, I replied. She swallowed. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. I reached across the table. I don't forgive lies, I said. But I support truth. She smiled through tears. That's enough, she said. That evening, I walked down to the water. Barefoot. The sand was cool. The sky soft. The house behind me. Whole. Safe. I thought about the title of my life. Not the one Marissa tried to write for me. The one I reclaimed. She said, We're going tomorrow, Mom. I sold your beach house. What she didn't know was that I had already sold something else. My silence. My fear. My permission to be used. And when I did that, I rebuilt my life without losing myself. If you want more powerful grandma stories like this, stories of strength, truth, and quiet victory, subscribe, like, and share this video. And tell me in the comments, what part of the world are you watching from?